Hi, welcome to the Boca Voice and Fact or Fiction Friday. Today, I'd like to go over what seems to be on a lot of people's minds in Boca today, which are what seems to be paramount to a huge scandal in City Hall. I don't necessarily know that it's a big scandal. This has been disclosed quite a few times, and it was actually investigated by the Ethics Committee. It was brought to the attention in regards to the Ethics Committee and by the city manager. It was the city attorney did what she was supposed to do, brought the Ethics Committee. Things were ruled upon in regards to the mayor, whether or not she had a conflict or not. Now, they went through the process that was available at the time to them. They did the process. The city attorney did what she thought was right. The mayor did what she thought was right. This Ethics Committee did what they thought was right at that particular time based upon the rules that were available. Now, when you go to the actual events that started this week, after they started seeing all of the articles that came out in the paper, which I still believe were planted, but whether or not they're planted or not, the CRA meeting opened up with Andrea O'Rourke, again, starting to throw stones, in my belief, started to look at why they were. Now, she opened it up, interestingly enough, starting to say that she also had a similar issue in regards to George O'Rourke, her husband, had a similar conflict, but he removed himself from that conflict. Now, I necessarily don't agree with that, but we'll leave that for the Ethics Committee to agree or disagree with that, because I think that if they're going to investigate, they should investigate whether or not he has a current issue or not with that as well. Now, what I do think that happened at the CRA meeting was that they agreed to look at it at a later date, which I think was right, because I think way too much time was spent on this particular subject in the CRA meeting on this ethics complaint. Now, let's move forward to the next day, when we actually took a look at the program all the way fast forward to almost midnight, if it was not past midnight, when they started, the city council actually started to look at whether or not and how they should accommodate this complaint. Now, when you look at that, they did actually address it. They addressed it in a multiple different fashion. They decided to look at a 6-point plan. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of the 6-point plan, because I think if you wanted to take the time to look at it, and I don't think it's completely fleshed out yet, as the city council directed the city manager to come back to the city council with an ordinance that would set forth an actual process for any sitting city council member to address the actual process of which they could recuse themselves if they felt that they had a conflict, or to get a variance from that conflict. Now, do I believe that there may have been a better way for the mayor to handle this if she felt that there was a conflict? Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. Clearly, she took a process to go through to an ethics board and find out, and the ethics board found that there was none. But let me make this perfectly clear. We're making a mountain out of a molehill. There was not a significant amount of money tied up. When Al Zuccaro first broke this story back during the campaign, and he really wasn't the one that broke it, by the way, I would like to note that Randy Schultz actually talked about it. And when he talked about it, he explained all of the story, which I've said multiple times. When Al tells a story, he slants a story. He only tells you what he wants you to know, so that he can direct the story for you to draw a conclusion that he wants you to hear, so that you don't have all the facts. You really need to know all of the facts to derive an actual conclusion, not the facts based upon what he wants you to hear. Perfect example, if you go to his website today, he has a running clock, as if the city council didn't take any action, which couldn't be farther from the truth. The city council took action at the CRA meeting, saying that they were going to come up with a 6-point plan. What did they do? The very next day, at the city council meeting, they directed the actual city management staff to create a 6-point plan. They sent them off on their way to create a 6-point plan. Thus, should have stopped the clock on the Boca Watches site. No, what does it happen today? If you look at it, sure enough, the clock is still writing. Is that genuine? No, it's very disingenuous, like it always is. And I've said it over and over and over again. We will get nowhere in this city of any kind of forward growth if we do not stop the negativity. And if Al is using Andrea O'Rourke as nothing more than his mouthpiece, then that's exactly what it is. And if you go back to even Andrea O'Rourke's campaign, she was standing right next to Al Zuccaro, Al the step of the way, trying to help him get elected, and she was trying to help her get elected. So they're two peas in a pod. And I know that Al's spending a lot of time trying to connect all of the dots, trying to make everybody on city council other than Andrea look like a shining star and make everybody look evil. But to be honest, they're not. We have a wonderful city. This city is growing, and it's growing in a wonderful way, not negatively. And yes, do we have development? We do. But it's not all bad. We have a great city to live in. And that city is growing to a place where we have a lot of families having lots of better things to do. And it's a place where you have your grandkids that can come, enjoy, and want to stay. We have a place where our kids now can enjoy a wonderful place to be able to enjoy. We have two great universities now. We have bowl games. We have televised golf. We have things now that we never could have dreamed 5 years ago, 3 years ago. All of that is a direct result of this sitting city council. So can we please stop all of this negative nonsense and allow the experts and allow the process to take place? We do not need to come to judgment before the facts are all heard. Let's not try people in the news. Let's allow people to have their day in court, as they say. Let's allow the process to take place. Now, something was heard, something came to light. A lot of things came to light. Whether it was right or wrong, I'm not the one sitting here passing judgment. Could have it been done different? Maybe. But are we going to persecute people? Here we are again, throwing stones. We take good people out in public like the Batmasians, like Al wants to do again, and wants to smear their good name again, when it really doesn't need to happen. They didn't do anything wrong. They have done nothing but build this city up. I have had no less than at least 30 to 40 phone calls telling me how sick they are that yet again, Al Zuccaro is trying to slide their name through the mud, drag their name through the mud. Why is that? Why does Al feel the need to try to constantly tear down this city? For what purpose? You know he has to have some sort of end game in sight. I was in the city council chambers when he was asked point blank by two other people, when is he running again for office? Is that the end game? Was all of this, was him leaking this story? Was him filing an ethics complaint again for the city mayor at Tallahassee? Was that all about him again running and creating another havoc for the city? What is that doing to try to help this city get to a better place? When are we going to stop the nonsense and realize that we are a great city? We don't need this nonsense. Now, do we need ethical standards? Absolutely. What happened as soon as the city council found out that there was an issue? Scott Singer called for an immediate issue at the CRA. He said, hey, look, Andrea O'Rourke called for an issue. Scott said, fine, let's hear it. He didn't want to have any nonsense. He said, let's listen to the issues and let's find out. Robert Weinroth said, okay, fine. Here are the things in front of it. He called out the city attorney. He felt that there was issues with the city attorneys and how she handled it. No one was trying to sweep anything under the rug. They were all having open debate to try to figure out what happened. As soon as they had the open debate, they directed the city staff to have conclusion to come up with 6 points that could be drafted into a document, drafted into an ordinance, so that going forward, we wouldn't have anything wrong. You know, my father once told me, you can tell the value of a company based upon what they do when things go wrong. There's nothing different in between a corporation and how a city is run. You know exactly what's going to happen when things go wrong. If they correct the errors, that's how we move forward. No one could have ever told and known what was going to happen to this until they figured out that something went wrong. This issue was down in Deerfield Beach. It didn't happen in Boca Raton. They figured out that, hey, you know what? Maybe it could have been run differently. And now it's fixed. And by the way, the other things that they're trying to make, like the mayor actually did something inappropriate by voting on it, I got news for you. Inside the rules of how a city council member has to vote, they actually, by the charter, have to vote for these things. So he's saying something that actually, again, is untrue. By virtue of the charter, she had to vote on all of those items unless she was told to recuse herself. And by virtue of how the ethics committee actually gave their ruling, she had no choice but to vote. So in my best opinion, I think we need to leave it to the three bodies that actually can make a decision: the city council, the city management, and the ethics committee. Once they come back with their rulings, then we can look at it and then determine whether or not there is even anything to be excited about. After that, we know where we stand. From that, I leave it to you. Thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you online and on Facebook. Thanks for following.